What's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. Boy, another fun one we're going to get into today because the Patriots have a divisional round opponent now. It is the Houston Texans. You know that. How does this one shape up? Phil Perry is alongside. We're going to dive right into it. Monday night, Steelers, Houston. That was a bad regular season game. Never mind playoffs, Phil. You expect to see an elevated level of play. And we will hit the defense that the Texans bring out there, but playoffs are about quarterback play, and C.J. Stroud did not do the job that you're looking for. You don't need a Josh Allen. You don't need a Superman. But for God's sake, hands at 10-2. Don't put your team in peril.
You don't need a Superman when your defense is that good. Like C.J. Stroud does not have to be, to your point, Josh Allen. He doesn't have to be Drake Maye from the 2025 regular season, but he's got to be better than that. He's got to be able to catch a snap, Tom. I mean, poor Jake Andrews, former Patriot Jake Andrews, just lofting him back there, and he can't even hold on to the thing. So between those miscues, between the red zone interception, which I thought was abominable and just inexcusable, those are the types of errors that when you're playing a better team than the Pittsburgh Steelers, you might not be able to come back from as good as your defense is.
And as our friend Tom Giles would say in an instance like that, and those guys know that, here's C.J. Stroud and D'Amico Ryans on the performance.
We had some problems with the snaps. Me catching them, got to find a way just to catch them and then take care of the ball.
Yeah, I love that, we had some bad plays that happened for CJ, right? And he didn't waver. You can easily go in the tank, right? But he didn't waver, and that's who he is. He's a resilient young man who was able to bounce back. Anybody can go in the tank. You drop the ball a few times, you keep battling. Like, the game isn't over. It's a 60-minute football game. You keep battling until the end, and that's what he did.
All right, so C.J. Stroud, I think, is generally an okay quarterback. He can play well. He's not an elevator, I don't think, necessarily, but this is a great game to look at the box score lies that you can be told. Because C.J. Stroud goes 21 for 32 for 250, touchdown and a pick. The pick was just could have been crippling for them because it was from the 14-yard line. All you needed to do to close them out was to get a field goal, really, and they couldn't do that. And again, the 21 for 32, he was addled. He was inaccurate. He looked tentative, and I wonder how much that was an aberration or whether that's the kind of thing that will continue, because the great thing about Drake Maye that we've seen this year and we saw last week and we've seen all season long is an ability to turn the ship around. He's not a battleship. Doesn't take him the entire game to turn himself around. He's a jet ski. I made a mistake. Boom, going the other way.
Yeah, I think the one thing you might worry about with C.J. Stroud, when he's going well, he has been able to, especially late in the season, been able to hit some shots deep down the field. And we saw a couple of those early in that game, if you remember. I don't know how closely you watched it, Tom, but I remember watching the Chargers-Texans game late in the regular season. And it was like haymakers coming from C.J. Stroud and that Texans offense early. And he does have good receiver talent around him. Now, I think one of the major storylines of this Patriots game is whether or not Nico Collins is actually going to be healthy enough to play. Suffered a concussion last night in Pittsburgh. But still, even without Collins, they're not bad. They get the two rookies from Iowa State and Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll. They have Christian Kirk, who had a big game the other night. So anyway, he has the ability to make the most of the talent around him. This is one of those situations where at times the quarterback will make plays to elevate the group, but the group can actually elevate him too.
Take a look at some of these numbers as we continue here. Texans actually went 10 for 15 on third down. Marks 19 for 112. Chubb 10 for 58. Christian Kirk, as you mentioned, 8 for 144. Is that a good enough offense, a good enough offensive line? You see old friend Trent Brown's on the right, Jake Andrews, Patriots cast off at center. Overall, that Pittsburgh front is daunting. And they can, with T.J. Watt and a lot of guys and a scheme that gets after the quarterback. But do you think the Patriots defensively can at least neutralize to a large extent? And the availability of Nico Collins is also paralleled by the availability of Christian Gonzalez for the Patriots, who is also in the concussion protocol.
Yeah, that's a huge factor as well for New England, at least. I guess if you're the Patriots with Christian Gonzalez, you have an extra day to try to get Christian Gonzalez through the protocol, whereas Collins had a concussion actually earlier this year, and so I really wonder if he's got any kind of realistic chance to make it back.
And that wasn't a violent fall that he had, which sometimes sometimes when there is a lesser contact and somebody can't immediately bounce up from it, it's because there's already strain up there.
And just to your point about their offense and your question, are they good enough? I think they are. I think they're good enough when paired with that defense, which I know we'll get into. But I liked what I saw from the Texans in terms of their willingness to hammer the run game. I mean, Nick Caley, there were a couple of drives where it was like, if we're going to continue to get 5 or 6 yards every carry, we're just going to continue to run the football right into the middle of the offensive line and pick up real gains. I think their offensive line, Tom, is below average, quite frankly. Like, this is not a good unit. This is a unit that traded away Laramie Tunsil. They had all kinds of problems last year. I think they felt as though, even though Tunsil was their most talented player up front, that he was, in the bigger picture, he was actually a problem for them just in terms of practice habits and some other things that we heard when the Patriots were rumored to maybe be in on Laramie Tunsil, and they really weren't because of those intangible issues. So they might be a little bit better than they were last year, but there's still plenty of holes up there up front for Houston. So the question to me is, if you're the Patriots, how do you attack it? Because this is now 2 weeks in a row where you're going against offensive lines that aren't great. Do you blitz them to kingdom come the way they did against the Chargers? Can you afford to do that against a receiving core that's pretty good? Or do you just play it in a more neutral sort of way and look at Milton Williams, who's played well these last 2 weeks, Christian Barmore, and say, hey, guys, we need you to win your one-on-ones. Beat Jake Andrews. Can Milton Williams beat Jake Andrews? I think we'd all feel pretty good about that matchup. I just look at that and say that might be the interesting sort of chess match for me if you're Zach Core, is how do you handle what you perceive as a weakness maybe up front for Houston?
And that matchup will be Zach Core and that defense, the Patriots defensive coordinator, against a former Patriots assistant, Nick Caley, who has, did he take an interview here?
He did, to be offensive coordinator when they were looking to hire Alex Van Peltz. They wanted to hire Nick Caley, and he actually decided to stay out in L.A. with Sean McVay for one more year.
All right, well, here's what he's going to have to deal with. Here's Robert Spillane after Sunday's game talking about all the things the Patriots did and how confounded the Chargers were.
Zach has been great all year. He keeps the dial spinning. He keeps offenses guessing all year. He's been doing that. Just after the game, talking to a few of the guys on their team, they had no clue what we were doing, and they came up and said that. We have no clue what you guys were in all game. So for him just to be able to build those packages throughout the week, our back-end players to know how to disguise the different defenses, really keeps quarterbacks guessing.
Before we get to this Houston defense, I want to just mention this matchup of Caley and Stroud against Zach Core and Robert Spillane, for lack of a better guy, is the guy in the middle. The Patriots' path to the Super Bowl really rides with their defense going against non-imposing Godzilla quarterbacks, except for Josh Allen and except if they get to the Super Bowl, Matt Stafford. That's it. Is there somebody else in the NFC I'm missing here that's a Godzilla quarterback?
I know you're not thinking about Sam Darnold as Godzilla.
Who else is left over there?
Or like Barney the dinosaur.
Brock Purdy's not Godzilla.
No, sure
Caleb
not.
Williams is not Godzilla. So there's two outliers. Is this defense good enough? Does Sunday seem replicable? Can they do it again?
I think it is, Tom. You've got a relatively young quarterback playing behind an offensive line, again, that has had its issues. And so if the Patriots want to get so creative where they're able to do this thing again that Robert Spillane explained after the game on Sunday night, I think C.J. Stroud is probably a quarterback that you will be able to confuse. Now, will he be as scatterbrained as Justin Herbert looked in the wild card round? It's hard to predict, but he looked that way in his own wild card game.
If I shook up the magic 8-ball and held it up, indications are yes.
I would tend to agree with you there, and that's understanding what a wildly bad performance that was from Justin Herbert, who I thought was passing up open receivers, was passing up open run lanes. He was completely flummoxed. I think you can do the same thing to C.J. Stroud. The key is, though, Tom, Why were they able to do that to Herbert? It was due in part to the fact that they were ahead. They were able to pin their ears back. They were able to blitz and blitz and blitz again, understanding that the Chargers were in situations where they were going to have to throw the ball. So they're going to have to make sure that they stop the run and, stop Woody Marks. It was a rookie running back who actually...
Did I call him Will? I called him Will. Woody.
It's Woody. You want to be able to make sure you can do that first, but then if you can get some kind of lead, then maybe you see more exotic stuff that ends up screwing up C.J. Stroud.
Really quick aside, there's a guy named Ethan Strauss who does House of Strauss. He's a really good writer out in the Bay Area. Anyway, he has a theory as to why Justin Herbert does not get the same scrutiny and uprising. And his theory is this: the Chargers don't have a fan base. Mm-hmm. They were in San Diego for so long, they've moved, so they don't have a fan base that necessarily gets completely up in arms about his performance. So it's always a national thing. And we look at 6'6", 235, great arm, smart as hell, and we still give him the benefit of the doubt. If he was in a city that had a voracious appetite for quarterback play and the fortunes of the team, he'd get more heat. That's just an aside. I found it interesting. And you mentioned Justin Herbert. So squirrel brain. Meanwhile, we can talk all we want about the offensive travails that we see Houston is going to run into. It's the defense that's the issue here. The defense is so good for Houston that it can render a poor C.J. Stroud performance moot. And that's what we're going to talk about in just a second.
It was an outstanding defensive performance, one of the best that I've seen, especially versus a really talented offense, a talented quarterback who's, played at a high level for a long time. So I'm proud of our defensive performance. I think this is the best performance we've had in our team history, so I'm proud of our guys for that.
DeMeco Ryans really liked what his defense did against Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. And they are a problem. Interestingly, they don't get very exotic defensively. They are last in the NFL in terms of running exotic defenses. They just line up and do their thing. The Steelers wanted the ball out quickly, Phil, and that didn't work because Houston just gets there too fast. So the Patriots are going to need to run the football to set up the ability to get downfield. And honestly, I don't think Drake Maye wants to be running around too much against these guys. They really arrive at the ball with an agitated level of hitting.
They do.
Why do I have to use so many words?
Yeah, the agitated level of hitting, I would guess, is a little scarier.
They get to the ball in a bad mood.
Of hitting. Fair enough. What's fascinating to me about the Texans is, as I've started to dive into some of the numbers even during the game last night, is that in terms of their pressure rate, the rate at which they are bothering, in an agitated fashion or not, opposing quarterbacks,
idiot,
is not through the roof. They actually rank 18th in the NFL, according to Next Gen Stats. They rank 18th in the NFL in terms of quarterback pressure rate. And I look at myself and I say, well, maybe that's just because they don't blitz. You're right. They do not get exotic at all. I think Aaron Rodgers had 3 pass attempts against the blitz on that Monday night game. So I, finagle the numbers and you can actually sort, okay, let's look at the plays only without a blitz, right? Across the NFL. I would assume the Texans with their pass rushers, that front four, when you're talking about just rushing 4 or fewer, they're getting home more than anybody. They're really not. They're still 18th in the NFL. Their pressure rate when they don't blitz, and again, they don't blitz much, is about 30%. So do they have incredible pass rushers? They do. Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, those guys are phenomenal, and so the Patriots on both sides of the line are going to have their hands full. However, if you can figure out a way to block it up, and if I'm the Patriots, I would trust Josh McDaniels to figure out a way to block it up, whether it's with 5 or 6 or 7, and max protect the thing and just give Drake Maye a little bit of time back there. He will have time. And so that, to me, while this is a daunting matchup, there is some hope in the numbers because they suggest it's not all night that you're going to be under pressure, but in some critical situations, you're going to have to deal with it.
This really leads perfectly into the point I want to make. Statistic-based, Patriots kill teams with explosive plays. You guys know that. You've seen it all season long, and that's an interesting thing going into this game because if they do block it up, they do get extra time because of the aggressiveness of the corners, Lassiter and Derek Stingley Jr., And they had a safety yesterday.
Jalen Petrie is dynamite as sort of a strong safety for them all over the field.
And Reed was the other safety, too. He left
Ended up getting banged up, yeah.
But bottom line, the Patriots, we know, here's some numbers. They had 69 plays of 20 or more yards in the passing game this year, second in the league. The Texans allowed 47 plays of 20 or more, 16th in the league. Meanwhile, running the ball, the Patriots can be a chunk running team, as you know, with Henderson and sometimes with draws to Stevenson. They had 16 carries of 20 or more. That's a lot. That was tied for third in the league. Meanwhile, the Texans allowed just 8 carries of 20 or more. And against the Chargers, the Patriots had 5 plays of 20 or more yards, 12 plays of 10 or more yards. So if they block it up and they do give Drake Maye time, say there's 2 guys out in the route, and it's Kayshon Boutte and Diggs or Kyle Williams, this could be an opportunity to get those shot plays. This doesn't mean because of their ability to pressure or the ability of the explosiveness of their pass rush, that doesn't mean the Patriots aren't going to be able to strike downfield.
No, they won't. And listen, Derek Stingley Jr. is not somebody you're going to want to test down the field all that often, especially this Patriots receiver group. But I think the strength for this pass game in New England has always been in its numbers. And so in some ways, this might be one of those weeks where it's kind of nice, where you don't have a true number one. I know Stephon Diggs is their number one, but you don't have that guy that you need to have 9 catches for 90 yards in order for you to have a chance to win. They don't have that player. If they did, then you're probably going to see Derek Stingley on him all night, and it's going to be really tough to get that guy the football. So this is going to be another one of those games, Tom, where you do spread it out. I do think they'll have a chance at some explosive plays. They like to play a lot of zone defense. D'Amico Ryans is from really the Robert Saleh school of defense, spent a lot of time with Saleh in San Francisco. So that was the old Seattle cover 3 scheme. That's evolved a little bit. So you're seeing a little bit more 2 high safety looks, but it's still a lot of zone looks. That's generally speaking what they've done. And Drake Maye, generally speaking, over this course of the season, has been excellent against zone. We thought he would see a ton of zone against the Chargers. He saw a little bit more man than I was expecting. But if he sees plenty of zone against Houston, I think they'll have their opportunities to go down the field.
If you're Houston, that's what you're running into. You're going to look at the Patriots receiver core and say, let's press them. I mean, Diggs can be pressed. He's not as fast and quick. Great route runner. You might want to move him around before the snap to get press off of him. Kyle Williams, not a big guy. Maybe you can press him. He's a rookie, so maybe he doesn't have the footwork and escapability to get away from a Stingley or a Lassiter, for instance. But if you do want to press them and you do want to play man, you're encountering the problem of Drake Maye. You have to be cognizant. Why did Drake Maye have a 37-yard run that had set up a key play? Because they were playing man. And you can't turn your back. He's too friggin' fast. And I know I do not want to run against the Texans. They play on the edge. And they will play on the edge in a divisional playoff game. I am positive, just like the Patriots will. If you got a shot, you better take the shot because the Patriots team and fortunes ride with Drake Maye. But there are aspects of the Patriots' complementary abilities on their offense that make it hard. What do you think Nick Caley will do to help the Texans understand what Josh McDaniels will try to do?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, these guys know each other so well. You know, Nick Caley was longtime tight ends coach.
Everybody knows McDaniels loves to feast on those zone defenses.
Right.
So Caley's not going to tell him anything new, but he might tell him, hey, here's what we would try to do sometimes.
And it might be as simple as we're going to have to mix it up more than we're accustomed to, or you guys on the defensive side. If he's walking into that meeting with D'Amico Ryans and he's got, the Patriots playbook from 2016 on the desk to give to Ryans and tells him, hey, this is going to be a fair amount of what we see. That Haas juke play that we like to use here in Houston, they're going to use it there as well. What's interesting about Caley's scheme is that it does have some McVay elements to it as well, but they spent so much time together. They're both John Carroll guys. They weren't there together, but Caley and McDaniels, they've got that long-term relationship, and Caley was the guy who was, helping plan red zone plans on a weekly basis for McDaniels when he was here with McDaniels. So my guess is, it's a lot of what the Texans probably saw in training camp from Caley's offense itself, which is Josh McDaniels is trying to marry the run with the pass, and they're trying to get you confused, and they're trying to get you off balance. And if I were Nick Caley, I would be telling D'Amico Ryans a couple of things. Number one, watch out for heavy personnel sets. They used them a lot against the Chargers. My guess is they'll use him again. They want to try to get base defense on the field, slower, bigger, stronger guys on the field, and they want to pass against them because you can be efficient in that regard. I think you also, if you're Caley, you're probably going to your head coach and saying, McDaniels is going to have something weird ready for us because their defense is so good. This is going to be one of those games where he's going to be ready to pull the trigger on not just one trick play the way that they did with the Drake Maye throwback thing that didn't end up working, but maybe multiple. And maybe you're dealing with eligible and non-eligible offensive line calls like we saw in the 2014 Divisional Round against the Baltimore Ravens, and that kind. Thayer Munford is going out for passes, lined up at a tackle position, in an unbalanced line. Like those are the kinds of weird things I think you might have to be ready for if you're Houston this week.
Funny, the presence of McDaniels, even though the Patriots are still a developing roster, the presence of McDaniels makes them infinitely more difficult to prepare for because of the experience, because of the things that he can pull out of a bat. I mean, if you're DeMeco Ryans this week, you're sitting there going, all right, well, he could do this, he could do that. And the interesting thing to counter from a Houston perspective is they don't alter their personnel much, as we were talking about earlier. They play a lot of 5 defensive back scheme because those defensive backs are so fast and aggressive. So just a quick look inside the numbers, too, here. Defensively, compared to the league, yards per game allowed overall, Houston 277, the league average 326. Yards per play, 4.78. League average 5.3. Rushing yards, 93.7 per game, 3.98 average. The league, 116 and 4.3. And then passing yards per game, they are at 183.5 allowed, just 5.8 yards per play on pass plays. And the league average is 210 with a 6.6 yards per play. So everywhere they're good in terms statistically.
Even your expected points added numbers, they're at the top of the league. They're top of the league in terms of EPA per play. In terms of EPA per pass, they are number 1. And in terms of EPA per rush, they are a little bit further down. They're at 10, though, still. So still a top 10 defense against opposing running games.
All right, what's the story of the Texans season? The story of their season is they started 0-3, and they finished, as you know, 12-5. So really strong close. Beating the Chargers, beating the Colts. They had a crappy close to the season in terms of strength of schedule. From November on, they beat the Bills. They beat the Jaguars. They beat the Niners. Okay, I just screwed that up, but these are teams they beat. But down the stretch, from after Thanksgiving, they beat the Colts. They beat the Chiefs. Jeez. Then they finished up with beating the Cardinals, Raiders, Chargers, who were playing like ass, and the Colts, who were without their quarterback, and they played the Steelers, obviously, who are not a very good team, on Sunday.
And had, if I recall,
like a mixed bag.
A dogfight to beat the Raiders, which is arguably the worst team in football.
You're right, and a dogfight to beat the Colts. And I don't know who it was, but in one of those games, I kept looking up, and I'm like, wow, is that another 48-yard touchdown? Scored on their defense.
They will occasionally give up an explosive play. I mean, they ended up middle of the pack this year, but they were 14th in explosive play rate allowed. So a much better scenario, quite frankly, than what the Patriots saw against the Chargers. The Chargers were better at limiting explosive plays. Now, I would say the Texans are still the better defense overall and on a snap-to-snap basis. But when you're talking about those plays that the Patriots offense has really lived off of for a large chunk of 2025, that stuff that's down the field, those 20-yard pass plays, those 15-yard runs that go to Travion Henderson when he's able to break a tackle and get into the secondary, the Texans are more likely to allow those than the Chargers.
All right, we got all week to get into that, but let's do a quick overview of the 4 games remaining. I mean, 24 teams are home already. Patriots are one of the 8 teams. They're one of the 4 games. Saturday, Bills, Broncos. And I think the Broncos are -1. Which tells you at a neutral site, people are terrified of Josh Allen. After that, it'll be 49ers at Seahawks. Another great game. We saw that, though. Seahawks bottled up Brock Purdy and the boys. And then it's going to be Patriots-Texans in the afternoon, Rams-Bears at night. Most likely scenario, Phil. Will it be Texans at Broncos next week? Will it be Bills at Texans? Will it be Patriots at Broncos? Or will it be Bills at Patriots?
I'm going to
likelihood.
Yeah, I believe it's going to be Bills at Patriots. Those are the teams I'll be picking this weekend. You said it right off the top of the show, Tom. What'd you say? You said playoffs about quarterbacks. I cannot in good conscience pick Bo Nix over Josh Allen. I don't care how good the Denver Broncos defense is, and it's a good defense. I don't care that the Bills are on the road. I don't even really care that Josh Allen is banged up, which he seems to be still. He is that one quarterback who, against a team and a quarterback like the one they'll see in Denver, I trust maybe more than any other. And I know he hasn't even won a Super Bowl, and so that may sound crazy to say, but that's how I feel about the guy. I think the Bills are coming to New England after the Patriots beat the Texans for the AFC Championship game.
All right, one thing we didn't get into was why Will Campbell struggled somewhat. You know what? Struggled. You don't have to throw someone in there. He struggled.
As a pass protector, for sure.
Can't say that. Can't put qualifiers on him. What did you see? What do you got? Tell you guys. That's what you're here for. We'll get into that more later in the week, but just a quick drive-by on that. After looking at him more closely, he's not 100%. I mean, that's your common denominator. That's your Occam's razor. Why did Will Campbell not play that good? Because he just came back from an injury.
I think that could be part of it, because looking at it a little bit more closely and looking at, for example, the one play where he got driven back into Drake Maye, and it wasn't his guy who got the sack. It was Khalil Mack who was actually just overpowering him and pushing him back. He wasn't using it's his right leg that was the banged up leg. He wasn't using his leg to get any width to the pocket. He was setting straight back, which just allowed all kinds of runway for Khalil Mack. He also wasn't chipped on this particular play that I'm talking about by Hunter Henry. It looked like Henry tried to chip him and missed. So he had all kinds of momentum built up before even contacting Will Campbell. There were some other plays where he did get out there and he got a little wider and he created some width to the pocket and he was able to sustain. So I don't think this is an unfixable problem, Tom, but I do wonder if the leg was bothering him at all.
It seemed when the injury happened, if the Patriots at the time were 4-9, I don't know if Will Campbell would be playing right now. I don't have the same medical sources I used to. But I'm just guessing. I mean, there was a question as to whether or not he would come back at all, and then it was a little bit eye-opening that he would. So, enough said. Everybody, thank you so much for getting in touch with your opinion on the greatest series villain and agreeing with me that it's Lalo Salamanca. Show me. Tell me again. Tell me again. And I loved seeing all the comments. Thank you for showing up in the comments. I didn't know you guys were so nice. I might actually start reading them on a more regular basis, which only is going to invite in all the people who hate us to say, oh, good, now they're looking. Dink. Bye.